Hey, hi everybody. This is Tiffy from Tiffy Talk here today with Steve Parent, author of a book called A Father's Voice. So, thank you, Steve, for joining us. I'm
Yes.
so excited that you're here. I think you actually created a masterpiece with your
Wow.
book. It is amazing reading, but not only that, it covers so many topics. And I think that it actually even covers topics that you didn't intentionally mean to cover. But your book is A Father's Voice. And the first thing that hit me is is parents your real last name?
It's
Because your last name goes with the book, or is that your pen name for that book?
no, that's my given last name. It's French Canadian, so it's Parent. So
So parent is your given name,
yes,
and your book has to do with parenthood, which
yes,
makes it feel like maybe you were born to write this book.
possibly.
um,
It's funny how this book was born, but that's a story for later.
yeah, so it's not a personal story that you got the inspiration from. It was just that something controversial.
No, this is 100% fiction. This is all make believe. So, but I did interview a lot of people who went through the similar situations. I interviewed forensic psychiatrists, doctors, lawyers. I did the whole 9 yards. I did my research for this book, and the timeline from when I wrote it, it's if you're reading some of um, the media stuff right now, you would think I wrote it last year. I wrote it 21 years ago. Finished writing the book in 2001, and I copy wrote it. I sent it into the copyright office 2 days before 9/11. So
Wow.
yeah,
So we're talking about that book. That book. So let me just clarify. That book is called A Father's Voice, and it's loosely about what a father's rights are as far as the baby is while the woman is still pregnant. And that's basically the essence of what the book is about. But really, it's about so much more. And I do think that it would be relevant in 20 years from now just as much as it's relevant today and just as much as it was relevant 20 years ago. I think as long as abortion is legal and common everyday event, this book is relevant because who has a right to determine who's going to have an abortion, and is abortion legal? Is it killing someone? Is it not? So anytime you talk about something like that, if abortion is still legal in 20 years, your book is going to be just as relevant
yeah,
as today. So the thing I love about the book that you didn't go into this complicated character names, and you can actually remember the names of the character. Every time I read a book, and the woman's name is Natawapa Kata, and the man's name, and people authors come up with these really creative names, and I can never figure out who's who. And every time I
yeah,
read about someone, I have to go back and say, okay, who's that and who's that, because the names just don't stick.
sure.
So I think one of the great things about writing a book is making it simple. Susan, easy to remember. Michael, easy to remember. I remember each and every character, which I virtually never do with books, no matter how much I love them.
Good.
So you made that really clear. That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you did that on purpose. Did you do that on purpose, or it just kind of came naturally?
Every character in the book I named after someone I know. Like Michael is my brother. My brother's name is Michael, so I put him as Michael Bishop. And everybody, I just created names that I didn't know, and I just made them simple. You don't have to make everything complicated. So
Right. And that way, when you say something about Susan, I know you're talking about the wife. When you say something about Michael, I know you're talking even the the evil characters, they have simple enough names. Okay, I remember Chandler. I don't remember his first name, but it's not like when you read a book and you want to become familiarized with the characters, they kind of become your friends. And when it gets complicated, even if you take a simple name, like instead of saying Nora, you say Norana or Normana, it's still something. Now you have to remember this whole new thing.
sure. Well, you mentioned Chandler in the book, yes,
Yeah.
and his name's Frank Chandler in the
Oh,
book.
Frank, yeah.
my boss at 20th Century Fox was Fred Chandler. So
Oh,
he turned out to be something different. So I wrote him as the character. So we were good friends at one time, but then I said no to him, I guess on the wrong day at the wrong time, and that was it. I was done. Like Stephen King, he wrote his first novel and he was so disappointed with it, he threw it in the trash.
right,
His wife dug it out of the trash and sent it in, and it became a bestseller.
right. I could totally see that.
Yeah,
Everybody that starts writing, they don't realize it. And I realized that you didn't realize how great of a writer you were still, because when you write something, I think by the time you finish writing it, you totally lose your objectivity. You know, you write and you edit and you re-edit, and you miss the period and you miss the comma, and oh my God, I misspelled the word. And by the time you finish, you look at it, and really there's no way that you can be even remotely objective about it.
yeah.
So
When I wrote the first draft of that and I sent it into the Library of Congress, it was 804 pages.
right.
It was very descriptive. If you think this one's descriptive, that one was really descriptive. That one went into songs, it went into stars, it went into everything.
I love it.
It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, iTunes. It's
It's
somebody
everywhere.
even contacted me and said they picked it up on Walmart.com, and I had no idea it was there. So on Barnes and Noble, Clint Eastwood read the book. He loved it, and he wrote an amazing review about it. But I have a friend who's a big time Hollywood actor. He lives a couple doors down here in Texas, and he said Clint Eastwood may love the book, but he won't touch it. He won't touch it past that because he'll be committing public suicide.
But this book is not really on the conservative side, because you even have Michael saying, I'm not against abortion. I'm not against free choice. I just want my baby. So really you don't take a conservative stand where you say abortion is murder. When do you find the time to write? I find that that's one of the biggest problems that authors have. Is a lot of people tell me they want to write a book, and 10 years later they didn't even write one chapter because they couldn't find the time.
Yeah, well, you could always make the time to write. Even if you write a not even a chapter, you could write a paragraph a day. You know, if you're spent, if you're just totally broke down at the end of the day, you work a hard day. Even if you don't work a hard day, just write something. Write a sentence. Write a paragraph, and soon that'll lead to two paragraphs, which will lead to a page, which will lead to a chapter, which will lead to a completed book at the end of the day. So I just encourage people, if they want to write, then shut up and do it.
If you know you were born to do a certain thing because you love to do it and you do it well, just because a book hasn't been picked up by a publisher or hasn't sold yet, because I've spoken to people who've sold 250,000 copies of their book and they feel like a failure too. And they want to give up too because it wasn't a 500,000. Or they haven't sold even 3 books and it wasn't 500,000. There are people that go door to door and play music so they can sell a CD. But for it to stop you from writing, that's the real crime here. I think you should write another book, and not to stop trying, keep on selling this one. You should definitely keep on selling this one, because this book, it's going to be very difficult for a traditional publisher to pick it up and put themselves in the firing squad right now. But in the other hand, there are so many people and other kind of publishers that may pick it up tomorrow that you don't know. You don't stop trying. But don't you have this like innate desire to write something else, that you just say, oh well, I'm going to write another book that's going to sit in the closet? But don't you have that? Because you never know which one of the book is going to go viral. You could be writing 5 books within a year. One of them might go viral.
Sure. Well, I still have my children's book that I wrote, and I still believe in it. I still think it's going to be a huge book. I wrote it in a series of 10, so I plan on 10 books coming out of that children's book. But I've taken and since this started, since I started the self-publishing route, I've got the writing bug back, and I've actually, the character of the lawyer Tyson Nash in my book is going to be another book on his own, because that character comes from my friend who was a lawyer. When I moved back from Germany, I crashed on his couch in Marina del Rey, California. You know, he was a real life lawyer. I didn't know he was a tweaker.
Ah.
I did not know that, but I took him as a character and I put him as the main lawyer in this book.
You mean the
And
Nash?
in his house in real life, he had stolen vanity license plates off of cars, and he stole them. And he had a 300-pound, 6 foot tall wooden Indian chief that he stole from a tobacco store.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It is, but funny. Imagine this: when he stole it, he has a nice car. It's a 1964 GTO convertible.
Ooh.
So when he stole that wooden Indian chief, he put it in the front seat, put the seatbelt on it, and drove it home. And I knew he was doing this, and I told him he's got to stop. He's got to stop. This is going to be another book, and he's already a good character. He's a great character, and you'll see even more as you go. Um,
Are you talking about Nash?
yes, Tyson Nash in real life. In real life,
I like the way you introduce him in the book by describing his apartment. I
sure.
love that. I think that's a great introduction because most people spend a lot of time and he was 5 feet tall, he had blonde frizzy hair, he this, he that. With but the description that you did, the way you chose to go into his life through his apartment, really you didn't have to say anything more. But I do feel that he's very sleazy in the thing that he basically is representing him, but he's really representing himself. And
Exactly.
I'm waiting for something to blow up here,
Sure.
for Michael to say, "Wait a minute, what is this guy doing?" But
You you don't like my characterization of him when I say he made Keith Richards look like an unsodomized choir boy?
so so there's a lot of things I love about your book and I love about your writing. I'll tell you one thing I don't like that bothered me, and that was with the Susan character. I think I feel that it's going too far. Like every time I read something about her, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with her? And you keep giving a glimpse of what's wrong with her. And I'm like, come on, what the hell's wrong with her? I mean, even when you say that her husband, Michael, loves her, he looks at her and he loves her because she looks beautiful and she has blonde hair. I'm like, what does he love? He doesn't even know her. I don't even know her. Does
Sure.
he really love her? And it actually brings up the idea of love and what do we as a society consider loving someone,
Mhm.
which one of my coaches and somebody that I really admire a lot really talks about a lot. Talks about what does falling in love mean and why our society is so big on divorces and breakups. It's because the way that we supposedly love each other and fall for each other is based on all the wrong things. It's based
Sure.
on looks and sex and attraction instead of who are you, what are your value systems, and do we match in our values.
Sure.
So that's what I keep every time you say anything about her, like what the hell is going on with her? What the hell? I want a little bit more, a little bit faster. I don't think revealing exactly who or what happened to her or who she is a great idea either, but it's so excruciatingly slow.
It will be, and then you'll understand why pretty much towards the very, very end.
Yeah.
You'll understand everything.
Yeah,
But
and that's
you're
the
not
problem that it's towards the very, very end.
and you're not gonna like me in a few days after you read a few more chapters.
I don't care what any publisher says about your book. It's a great book and it's a great read and it's got a lot of topics that are important. So the big question
Thank
is,
you.
do you think that abortion is murder?
I
Personally,
do. I do, yes. I do. But that's my opinion. There's several different situations that has a woman facing abortion. It's not all cut black and white. And I wouldn't hold it against anybody if they had an abortion. That's their choice. I'm not saying my way is the only way, and I'm not saying because I wrote this book I know everything, which I don't. I never will claim that either. So if abortion happens, that's your personal choice, and I, I'm against it. I'm against abortions, but I'm just one person with one voice who wrote a book about it, and I wrote it from the father's point of view because he's always the forgotten person in the issue. Nobody ever asks the father what he wants, what he thinks. It's always the woman's body, her choice. Deal with it, and usually the fathers have no choice but to deal with it. But in this book, I say no. That's part of my body. That's part of me, and I'm going to fight because I want my baby. If you don't want him, just let me have him. Go away. So,
Right. Exactly. And it's even more than that. Actually, these days, I don't know if you've been in court with custody or you know what's going on in court, but I was in court for a lot of years fighting for custody with my kids. And the court, even when it comes to custody, totally against the father. I,
yeah.
it doesn't even matter if the mother is abusive or a schizo
Or
or
a drug addict.
a drug addict or a prostitute. The court always gives the mother what she wants, and whatever she says, if she says he did something which he really never did, even if he can prove that he never did it, still the court is always on the mother's side. Not always. I mean, I've seen cases where men with a lot of money end up taking kids away from a woman, not necessarily because she doesn't deserve to have the kids, because they're just mean and they have a lot of money, and court is about
Yeah.
money.
That's the only thing you could do as a man is shovel bulldozers full of money at the court, and you might have a chance. That's the only way you're going to have a chance as a man. So
Right. And personally, the fact that fathers have no rights to children, I don't think it's accidental, and I don't think it's just one day came out of nowhere. I do think that it's somewhere. But I also think that there's an assault on the family right now altogether, father and mother.
I do
That
as well.
yeah, totally assault. So I think that's a very touchy subject
It
right
is
now,
very
as it was.
touchy.
Yeah, as it was 20 years ago as well.
Yeah, as it will be 20 years from now.
Right.
So
Or as long as abortion is legal.
correct.
So a lot of women that have had abortion, a lot of women that have had abortion, they really regret it eventually. They may not regret it right away, but 10 years down the line, 20, at one time or another, they do regret it. It's kind of like people that have tattoos. Most people that I know that have tattoos are in the 50s or 60s and got it in their 20s, like, oh God, I wish I never did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a tattoo doesn't kill a child, and it doesn't have that kind of ramification.
Nope. And it's not going to affect you now, tomorrow, next year, next 10 years from now. Eventually, the taking a life is going to really affect the person who took that life. It's going to destroy them. It's going to eat them up inside. So
Right, and they only got it because they bought into this social normalization of having an abortion. That it's
well,
okay. Just because you had sex doesn't mean you have to have a baby.
sure. And a lot of the times, I'd say probably 95% of the time, it's the men wanting to have the abortion. But and that's why I wrote the book the way I wrote it, with the man being the one against the abortion. So, and the woman wanting it. It's usually the other way around.
I think it's more common. Yeah, it's more common for the men to say to have an abortion because they don't want the commitment. But I think it can go both ways. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I totally recommend for everybody to read that book. And I really do hope that you keep on writing
I
always,
am. I'm
and
going
that
to.
I spoke to one woman that had written over 800 books,
Wow.
and I think it was about after her 100th books, because she writes a book every 3 months and she's in her 70s.
Wow.
So her after she wrote about almost 100 books, she started getting published, and now she's selling like crazy. She's not
I
a
wish
big
I could do
star.
that.
Yeah. So just keep on writing. If you have ideas, if you have things that you want to write, publish. Today, self-publishing is really so easy, and
Yeah.
and there's no reason not to do it, and just keep talking about it. I think you're doing fantastic, and I think I would like to talk to you again after I finish reading the book, because shame on me that I didn't. But I have a great experience. I've been traveling like crazy, and not having a place to stay is literally debilitating after a while,
Yes.
because I have to pack up. I had to pack up everything and move out of my house completely, so I don't have a base. Then I moved to one place, and it was only for 30 days. Then I went for 2 weeks, and I had to stay in a hotel every night. So it totally throws off your schedule.
I don't believe you. You're too young to have traveled and moved all those places. I don't believe you.
So yeah, I can definitely understand why you would want to travel alone.
Yeah.
Definitely a plus to it. But it's also nice to travel with someone that you like, that you don't
Yes.
mind when they talk.
Sure. Those are hard to find.
But so are you planning to go somewhere anytime soon?
Not anytime soon. No, I'm just continue writing and see where I go with that. I'm hoping. I'm still trying to get this book sold. I'm hoping that if this book gets into the right hands, because I know once this book gets into the right hands, it's going to explode. It's going to, with the amount of people that are for pro life, there's no way this book can fail. It's I just know in my heart that it's going to sell a lot of books. But
Well,
I'm
I'm
just
definitely here to help you and spread the word, and we'll
I
see what
need that. Thank you.
we can do out here. It's really a pleasure talking to you. I would like for you to come back after I finish reading the book because I think at that point I'll have a lot more questions.
Absolutely, I'd
I'll
love to
be
come
yelling
back.
at you some things you did wrong, but definitely, I would definitely like to.
I'd love to come back, and I'd love to talk to you again. And I'm looking forward to it. So
Wonderful. So I want to really thank you for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
thank you. It's been a
And
pleasure talking to you.
thank you. And if you guys like what you hear, please subscribe. If you hate it the next day, unsubscribe, but please subscribe and share at least with two people. That's all I'm
Please.
asking you to do. I'll do all the work. I'll bring it all to you. I'll do the editing. I'll spend hours bringing you interviews. Just subscribe and share. And that way we can at least spread the word. I'm bringing you amazing authors and all kinds of different things that I find very interesting, hoping you find it very interesting. This is Tippy with Tippy Talk talking to Steve Parent, mainly about his book called A Father's Voice.
And before I go here, let me just show you this is my book on Amazon. It's called Wake Up and Plan for Roses. It is about planning your life consciously because we actually plan our life unconsciously if we don't have an active plan. So might as well make it active, might as well make it the way you like it. So if you want the book, it's Wake Up and Plan for Roses on Amazon.